Step into Britain in the mid-1980s, neon shop signs glowing on high streets, the clatter of arcade machines spilling out from smoky halls, and the hum of cassette players rewinding yet another favorite tape. The decade felt alive with possibility. A bloke in a Ford Cosworth could feel like a racing champion, a Walkman on the bus turned commutes into private concerts, and Friday nights meant carefully choosing VHS tapes that could define the whole weekend. This was the decade when men lived in the overlap of grit and glamour, where technology, fashion, and music collided in ways the world hadn't seen before. It was bold, experimental, and unforgettable. Today, we're looking back at 15 things that every British man loved in the 80s, cultural treasures that have now vanished, but once made life feel electric. Top of the Pops on Thursday nights wasn't just television, it was Britain's weekly cultural summit where families discovered who was dominating the charts and what sounds were shaping the nation's musical identity. Virgin megastores weren't just record shops, they were cultural cathedrals where British men could spend entire afternoons browsing thousands of albums, discovering new artists through listening posts, and engaging in serious conversations about music with staff who genuinely knew their stuff. The Oxford Street flagship was musical paradise. 3 floors of vinyl, CDs, and cassettes organized by genre, with knowledgeable staff who could recommend obscure B-sides and import albums that wouldn't appear in smaller shops for months. The listening posts were revolutionary technology, headphones connected to the latest releases allowing customers to sample albums before purchasing. This wasn't just convenience, it was musical democracy that let working-class music fans make informed choices about expensive purchases. Saturday afternoons at Virgin Megastore were social events. Music enthusiasts gathered to discuss new releases, share recommendations, and participate in record signing events where meeting your musical heroes felt genuinely possible. The Hacienda wasn't just Manchester's most famous nightclub, it was the cathedral of acid house, the space where working-class northern men discovered that dancing could be transcendent and that music could create genuine community across traditional social divisions. Friday nights at the Hacienda felt like participating in cultural revolution. The sound system was earth-shaking, the atmosphere was electric, and the music was unlike anything most British men had experienced. This wasn't traditional disco, this was something entirely new that demanded physical response. The club's democratic ethos meant that factory workers danced alongside art students, that football fans shared dance floors with music journalists, and that everyone was united by rhythms that made individual identity less important than collective experience. The fashion was as revolutionary as the music, baggy jeans, loose shirts, and bucket hats that prioritized comfort over traditional masculine presentation. This wasn't about looking hard or impressive, it was about moving freely and feeling connected to something larger than individual concerns. Live Aid wasn't just a concert, it was the moment when every British man felt part of something historically significant, watching Wembley Stadium host the greatest collection of musical talent ever assembled for humanitarian purpose that transcended entertainment. July 13, 1985, felt like cultural Christmas morning. From Queen's legendary performance to U2's career-defining set, every act delivered performances that felt genuinely important rather than merely entertaining. This wasn't just music, this was history being made in real time. The event demonstrated British organizational excellence on global scale. While American acts performed simultaneously in Philadelphia, Wembley felt like the emotional center of worldwide effort that proved British music industry could coordinate something genuinely meaningful. The television coverage created shared national experience. Every British man watched the same performances, felt the same emotional peaks, and participated in collective cultural moment that united kingdom and international audience simultaneously. MTV Europe's launch wasn't just another television channel, it was 24-hour access to global music culture that transformed how British men discovered new bands, understood fashion trends, and connected to international youth movements. August 1987 changed everything. Suddenly, music wasn't limited to weekly Top of the Pops appearances or radio airplay. MTV provided constant stream of music videos that turned artists into visual experiences and made music consumption genuinely international. The channel's British VJs became cultural authorities who introduced American and European acts that might never have reached British audiences through traditional media. This wasn't just entertainment, it was cultural education that broadened musical horizons beyond domestic chart limitations. MTV's influence extended beyond music to fashion, attitudes, and lifestyle aspirations. British men learned about New York hip-hop culture, Los Angeles metal scenes, and European electronic music through videos that provided cultural context alongside musical content. The Sinclair ZX Spectrum wasn't just an affordable computer, it was technological democracy that made every British man feel like a pioneer in the digital revolution, programming games in bedroom laboratories that would shape the future entertainment industry. Sir Clive Sinclair's masterpiece cost less than a decent stereo system but delivered genuine computing power that transformed living rooms into programming workshops. The distinctive rainbow stripe became symbol of British technological ingenuity and accessible innovation. Learning basic programming on the Spectrum felt like acquiring secret knowledge that would prove essential for future success. Men who'd never considered themselves technically minded discovered they could create games, manage databases, and manipulate digital information with confidence. The loading process became ritual, inserting cassette tapes, waiting for programs to load while hoping for successful data transfer, and experiencing genuine excitement when software finally appeared on screen. This wasn't just convenience, it was participation in technological magic. The Sony Walkman wasn't just portable music, it was personal soundtrack technology that allowed British men to curate private musical experiences, create perfect mixtapes, and transform daily routines into cinematic moments with personalized audio accompaniment. Owning a Walkman meant carrying your record collection everywhere. Commuting, walking, exercising, every activity could be enhanced with carefully chosen music that made mundane activities feel significant and personal. Mixtape creation became serious art form. Men spent hours selecting tracks, timing transitions, and creating compilations that expressed personality, documented relationships, or provided perfect soundtracks for specific activities. This wasn't just music consumption, it was creative expression. The yellow foam headphones became cultural symbols of personal space and musical sophistication. Wearing a Walkman announced that you were living with soundtrack while remaining aware of surrounding environment. Friday night trips to video rental shops weren't just errands, they were weekly cultural expeditions where British men browsed walls of movies, debated film choices with friends, and experienced genuine anticipation about weekend entertainment that required physical commitment. The ritual was democratic cultural participation. Every man could afford to rent the latest Hollywood blockbusters, discover foreign films, or revisit classic movies that cinemas no longer showed. This was film democracy that made every weekend a potential film festival. Video shop staff were cultural guides who provided recommendations, warned about disappointing sequels, and helped customers navigate genre categories with expertise that enhanced rather than limited viewing choices. The physical browsing experience created serendipitous discoveries. Men found films they'd never heard of, took chances on interesting cover artwork, and engaged in conversations with other browsers who shared recommendations. The anticipation enhanced viewing experiences. Choosing films felt important because rental meant commitment to specific entertainment that couldn't be easily changed mid-viewing. The Ford Sierra Cosworth wasn't just a performance car, it was the ultimate boy racer's dream that proved British engineering could create machines capable of dominating both public roads and professional racing circuits with aggressive styling that announced serious performance intentions. The distinctive whaletail spoiler and aggressive bodywork made every Cosworth unmistakable. This wasn't subtle performance, this was automotive theatre that declared drivers' commitment to speed and engineering excellence over practical considerations. The turbocharged engine delivered genuine supercar performance at prices young professionals could afford through hire purchase agreements. This wasn't exotic European machinery, this was accessible British performance that working-class enthusiasts could genuinely own. Cosworth ownership connected drivers to Ford's racing heritage. Every road car shared technology with machines competing in touring car championships, making ownership feel like participation in professional motorsport rather than mere consumer purchase. The original Golf GTI wasn't just Volkswagen's hot hatch, it was proof that small cars could deliver genuine performance, creating the template for affordable excitement that made spirited driving accessible to young British men without requiring supercar budgets. The red-trimmed interior and distinctive styling announced serious performance intentions without aggressive posturing. This was sophisticated speed that appealed to men who wanted capability without ostentation. The driving experience was perfectly balanced, responsive handling, adequate power, and build quality that made enthusiastic driving feel sustainable rather than mechanically dangerous. This wasn't fragile exotica, this was robust performance engineering. GTI ownership created communities of enthusiasts who shared modification tips, organized driving events, and maintained cars with devotion that reflected genuine appreciation for engineering excellence rather than mere transportation utility. The car's influence shaped entire automotive category. Hot hatches became legitimate performance alternatives to traditional sports cars, proving that practical vehicles could deliver genuine driving excitement. Power dressing wasn't just fashion, it was armor for economic warfare, the sharp-suited uniform that made every British man feel capable of conquering financial markets and corporate hierarchies during the decade when ambition became socially acceptable. The Wall Street look became London standard: wide shoulders, colorful braces, and expensive ties that announced serious business intentions. This wasn't just clothing, this was corporate costume that made wearers feel psychologically prepared for professional combat. The philosophy was simple: dress like success and success would follow. Men invested in quality suits, Italian shoes, and accessories that projected confidence and competence in business environments where appearance influenced advancement opportunities. High street retailers democratized expensive styling, making power dressing accessible to men who couldn't afford Savile Row tailoring but wanted to participate in corporate culture that valued professional presentation. Designer sportswear became everyday fashion when Adidas, Fila, and Sergio Tacchini transcended athletic functionality to become lifestyle statements that allowed British men to express personal style through high-quality casual wear that bridged sporting excellence and street credibility. The casual movement transformed tracksuit tops and tennis shorts into serious fashion choices that demonstrated knowledge of quality sportswear brands and appreciation for design excellence beyond purely athletic considerations. Italian brands like Fila and Sergio Tacchini represented continental sophistication that British men could wear while maintaining masculine credibility. This wasn't pretentious fashion, this was accessible luxury that improved daily comfort while projecting style awareness. The terraces influenced mainstream fashion as football fans adopted expensive sportswear that demonstrated both team loyalty and individual style consciousness. Casual culture proved that working-class men could appreciate design quality and fashion innovation. Designer sportswear provided comfortable alternatives to formal business dress and traditional weekend wear, creating middle ground between professional presentation and complete casualness. After-work drinks in wine bars and gastropubs weren't just social gatherings, they were rituals of economic boom where young British men celebrated financial success, networked with ambitious peers, and participated in consumer culture that made prosperity feel genuinely attainable. The city's wine bars became extensions of dealing rooms where traders, lawyers, and finance professionals continued business conversations over champagne and sophisticated cocktails that reflected newfound disposable income and cultural confidence. These weren't traditional working men's pubs, they were upscale establishments that served quality drinks in environments that reflected professional achievement and social aspiration. The atmosphere encouraged networking and deal-making rather than merely social drinking. The culture represented democratic access to luxury consumption. Young professionals could afford expensive drinks, quality food, and sophisticated environments that previous generations had considered exclusively upper-class territory. Friday afternoon sessions became legendary networking opportunities where career opportunities were discussed, business relationships were formed, and economic optimism was celebrated through collective consumption of premium hospitality. Standing on terraces wasn't just watching football, it was participating in tribal rituals where British men experienced genuine community, expressed passionate loyalty, and created atmosphere that made every match feel like cultural war rather than mere sporting entertainment. The terraces were democratic spaces where different social classes stood together, united by team loyalty that transcended economic differences. Factory workers sang alongside bank managers, creating genuine community around shared passion. The atmosphere was electric, thousands of men singing, chanting, and responding collectively to match developments with emotional intensity that made every game feel personally significant rather than passive entertainment consumption. Terrace culture created songs, traditions, and rituals that were passed between generations, creating cultural continuity that connected fathers to sons through shared team loyalty and matchday experiences. Smoking everywhere wasn't just personal habit, it was social infrastructure that facilitated workplace relationships, pub conversations, and business networking through shared rituals that created natural conversation opportunities and common cultural experiences. Cigarette breaks provided legitimate workplace social time where colleagues from different departments could interact informally, share information, and build professional relationships outside formal business structures. Pub smoking created atmospheric environments where conversation flowed naturally, business was conducted over ashtrays, and social interactions were facilitated by shared smoking rituals that provided conversation starters and natural interaction breaks. Office smoking meant that workplace socialization happened continuously rather than being confined to designated break times, creating more relaxed professional environments where informal communication strengthened team relationships. The culture provided acceptable social approaches, asking for light-started conversations, sharing cigarettes created temporary bonds, and smoking areas fostered communities around shared habits. These 15 experiences weren't just entertainment and lifestyle choices, they were the cultural infrastructure that made being a British man in the 1980s feel connected to something larger than individual experience. The 80s offered genuine democracy of access. Working-class men could afford Cosworths, enjoy designer sportswear, and participate in cultural movements through affordable technology and accessible luxury. Every aspect of culture felt participatory rather than exclusively commercial. We gained health consciousness, safety regulations, and global connectivity. But we lost the immediacy, community aspects, and affordable access to quality experiences that had made 80s culture genuinely inclusive rather than economically restrictive. These vanished pleasures succeeded because they understood that the best cultural experiences created community, facilitated social connections, and made individual participation feel significant rather than merely consumer transaction. The 80s proved that popular culture could be democratic, that technology could be accessible, and that good times didn't require enormous wealth, just enthusiasm and willingness to participate. In our rush toward digital efficiency, we may have forgotten that some experiences can't be replicated online and that the best cultural moments require physical presence, shared spaces, and genuine human connection.